What's your name, brother?
I'm Phin.
So I'm here with Phin. Again, we're at 3XP and just talking to as many developers, a lot of teams here talking about Web3 and gaming and trying to understand, like, for the rest of the world who have not gotten over here, like, what is this thing, man? Like, what is it? You know, we're asking questions about, hey, how does this thing make money, right?
Yeah.
As someone like myself who's an investor, you know, we invest in stuff like, what are we investing in? You know, when there's not many people here yet. So everybody's trying to understand, what is this space? Why does it matter? So I'm gonna let you go ahead and take off, man, and go.
Yeah, I got a great answer for you. So I think the way I look at it is for the last like 30 years, you know, people like myself and other gamers have been like really enjoying games. And for the longest time, you know, we play a game and our enjoyment, our memories, and our accomplishments in that game are locked in that game, right? So, you know, I can go back and play an old game and unlock that kind of nostalgia and unlock the memories and unlock specifically the content that I got, stuff that I collected in that game. You know, what we really want to do is start to break that mold and say, like, you know, rather than you having to go back to a game that is old and outdated to, you know, see the assets you collected. Say you unlocked a really cool skin that took you a really long time. Well, I want you to be able to use that in every iteration of that game going forward. And I want you to be able to, you know, if you would like to sell it, I want you to be able to sell it and transfer it and trade it, you know. And I think, like, that's the core of what we want to do. We want people who are playing games to own the things that they put in the time and energy to collect. And, you know, there's totally some avenues which allow for, like, you know, earning, and that's super awesome. It's also not necessarily our focus, right? Like, we think that's just like an awesome byproduct of allowing people to own their assets. And we look at, like, Counter-Strike, for instance. You know, you can collect skins, and some of those skins are worth a ton of money, but they're, you know, the sale of those skins is locked into Steam. You can only sell them on Steam. Steam takes a cut. Steam tells you when, you know, can and can't
So
sell.
what is Steam? It's like the third time. What is Steam?
So Steam's a game launcher. It's like, so you can list your game to be purchased and, you know, downloaded off of Steam. They are not known as the most warm, welcoming team. They're very, you know, known for being stuck in their ways and doing things how they do them. And so I think a lot of the teams here were really looking to kind of expand, you know, that control that a lot of large players in gaming have held over the space, where, you know, a select few decide, you know, what kind of games are going to be successful and what kind of assets are going to be successful. And, you know, that's, you know, what we want to kind of start to shift and change and evolve.
Okay, let me ask you, are companies in this space, do you guys look for investors?
Sure. Yeah. We're VC backed.
Okay, so you are VC backed.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we raised a little over $46 million.
46?
Correct, yeah, from a couple of investors, Griffin Games, Paradigm, and a few private parties. Yeah, I mean,
this game or the company? 'Cause you said the company's been around for 25 years.
Yeah, so this game specifically, the funding was for this specific project, which was to kind of, it's Wildcard, so it's a TCG MOBA. We're trying to, like, create a new genre of game that allows for creators and collectors to experience gaming in a new way. You know, we think it speaks to people who grew up playing Pokemon and grew up playing Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! and loved the idea of, like, collecting cards and making decks and playing with friends. We want that to be something that you do now in a digital age, in a way that still feels engaging and doesn't feel limited and doesn't feel like, you know, kitschy or you know, gimmicky, I guess I would say.
Right. So let me ask you, I'm glad you told me about the VC thing. I'm curious.
Yeah.
So everybody I talk to in this space talks about, oh, don't worry about money. It's not money. This is that. Okay, you guys get $46 million for this one game.
Sure.
What is an investor looking at? If the model right now, is it making money right now? Is it a long-term play? Is it like, hey, let's put money into, you know, we get to this inflection point, you know, where it's more mass adopted, so we're just in early now, maybe we have more, you know, like, what is it?
Yeah, I think a lot of teams and a lot of VCs are wanting to, you know, they want the teams that they think are going to be not necessarily first to market, but best to market. And, you know, being early to this space has always had advantages. There's definitely disadvantages too, right? Like, being early to a product market where there may not be a ton of users is the challenge that I think all of us are facing. But the reality is, like, you know, while the big studios are still not building their games using blockchain technology, it leaves room for teams like us and you know, Shrapnel and you know, Axie Infinity and Ascensions and all of these teams that are building these really amazing games to kind of step through the door first.
Right.
And to make sure that people's first interaction with blockchain gaming is from teams who really just care about giving people an amazing game, right, and are not going to act like a large publisher might, where they're going to look for how much money they can make off of a game. And for a lot of us, you know, that is going to be one of those, with success in a game comes money. But if the focus and the focal point, you know, starts with us just wanting to build a great game, we're going to beat them to market in the right way.
Okay.
You know, and we're 18 months out, and, you know, it'd be very impressive to see another team catch up with us in 18 months.
Wow, I love it. So what's your background? You sound like you know this stuff, man. What's your background? Do you have a tech background? Like, what's your background?
No, I've just worked at startups for a number of years, worked in Web3 for a couple of years now. I've been in crypto since 2016, 2017.
Okay.
Played video games my whole life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get some stock options in this game?
No.
No stock options, just for the love of it?
No, I love this. I love this studio. I love my team that I get to work with. I fell in love with the team when I started talking to them. And so, yeah, I'm here to just kind of help bring their vision to life and to show people what blockchain gaming can be.
So what does your day-to-day look like in a company, a studio like this?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, a lot of it right now, right, we're pre-marketing. So it's a lot of organizing with, you know, doing podcast panels, interviews, setting up press, working with our you know, wide range of partners, other games, tech studios, things like that.
Okay.
Organizing, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then managing our partner list, manage our creator list. We have a really wide network of content creators in Web3 that we work with. And so
awesome. I
help facilitate making sure that they have time in the game. You know, they have the support they need from us to be able to create the best content possible. So yeah, that's a lot of my day-to-day is just taking up all that.
I love it. So what efforts are you guys making to get more mass adoption? Like what, you know, specifically? Like what is
so our focus is this, right? Like, we just want to build the best game. So our focus is build the best game. You know, Paul, our founder, has said it really well that, you know, people are not looking for the best Web3 game. They're looking for the best game. And it's been proven time and time again that, you know, the friction points in new types of games are overcome by a team releasing a really good game.
Yeah.
You know, Battle Royale was never loved until Fortnite came out.
Right.
You know, like free-to-play was never loved until Call of Duty and Fortnite and games like that revolutionized that concept. You know, even when you talk, like, we throw all the way back to, like, you know, when online gaming first came around and, you know, everyone's like, who's going to play games online? Like, you know, when you think back to this, or like mobile gaming, you know, people like, who's going to play games on their phone? It's like, well, turns out the entire world. And it turns out specifically the people who would otherwise not play on a console or an Xbox. You know, it was creating this Game Boy in everyone's pocket.
Right.
So we look at blockchain gaming in the same way. The best games will be the ones that people don't know are blockchain enabled, and they're the ones that are just purely fun and give the average player a sense of enjoyment and potentially more reward than they get out of a regular game.
I love it.
Yeah.
So listen, man, I want you to give me a walkthrough of your game.
Yeah.
Let me check it out through here.
Yeah, so this is
let me get interactive a little bit.
So
can I play with you?
Grab the controller. Yeah, we'll play together. I'm gonna check the time real quick. Cool. Yeah, so it's an arena fighting game. So you walk around with the left joystick, with the right joystick. We call it a card summoning game because we actually cast creature cards out at will. So if you press the right trigger, you'll be able to throw a creature out. Yeah, so just let go of the right trigger. So you throw your creature out, and then you get to throw another creature out. And if I throw a creature out too, our creatures will fight. So I'll throw something down, you throw a creature down.
Oh, okay.
The right trigger again. You walk back a little bit. There you go. Now throw a creature. There you go. Sweet. Perfect. And they're going to start fighting. And then that's the core kind of gameplay.
Oh, so I just gotta keep.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. They're gonna, you gotta keep throwing creatures because they'll attack you if they don't have a creature to attack. So if you keep, yeah, there you go. So yeah, it's sort of taking the concept of like a standard card game. You know, it's like you play cards against each other, but what happens if those cards come to life? Like Jumanji almost. You know,
right.
The board game comes to life. You know, and what does that look like? And
I guess I'm not doing it right, huh?
Yeah. So you got to have enough mana to cast each card. So if you notice in the bottom right-hand corner of each card, there's a number.
Okay.
When the cards are black and white, you can't cast them. When they go color, you can cast them.
So do I just run or like?
It's up to you.
I'm like, do I just run? Like,
it's a lot. It's a lot. Don't worry. It's a lot. Like for the first time, there's kind of a lot that goes on. But if you're in the red areas, you can't cast cards. So that's like my side of it.
Oh, so I need to get over there.
Yeah. So you're like, hang out on the blue side.
Okay.
And what you'll do is kind of wait for your mana to generate up, and then you'll use your mana to cast creatures. You can also attack with X. So if you walk up to this guy and punch him, there you go. So he died.
I'm playing a real gamer, y'all. This guy's a real gamer. I like what you said though, like not about like creating the best Web3 game, but like the best game where it doesn't even look like.
The most seamless integrations of product are always when users don't know that they're using it.
Right.
And, I think there's something to be said about, like, we will always be a blockchain game. I don't think that part will ever hide.
Yeah.
But, the reality is that the average player and the average person right now does hear crypto, and they do tend to have a certain sense, and then they have a certain predisposition to, like, what crypto means.
Right.
Our goal is to prove that wrong, right? Like, we don't want people to think that, like, this is some kind of like scammy casino game.
Right.
It's not, right? Like we're going to show people like, hey, this is an amazing game and you're going to play it because you love it.
Right.
And oh, here we go. We got Paul, who's the founder of Wildcard. We're doing an interview.
Paul, Terry, how you doing? Pleasure, man. Man, this guy is singing your praises, man. He needs like a straight up $100,000 bonus. He told me to say that. So, where are you from, first of all?
I'm originally from Miami, but we are based in Dallas. I've been there for like 25 years now.
Okay. Are you former tech? Like tech startup?
I've been making games since I was 13. But I came into it as an engineer. So yeah, I have like a tech background, but I've been, so my first job in the industry was in Dallas at a studio called Ensemble. We created the Age of Empires franchise.
Okay.
And so I worked on all the Age of Empires games. Then we worked on Halo Wars. We sold that company to Microsoft.
Okay.
Then after that, we started one of the early iPhone game companies.
Okay.
And it's funny, I was telling people like, those first conferences, like back before, like now everybody's like, of course, iPhone games. But at the beginning, like most people were skeptical. They were like, I don't know if games are going to be a thing on the iPhone.
Wow.
So those early conferences were like this, a little bit smaller, a little bit more intimate. And this feels like that. It feels like the beginning of that kind of thing. Anyway, we created a game called Words with Friends, which was like a big hit on the iPhone.
Okay.
And then we founded this studio.
Wow. So you're a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Have you exited one of your companies?
So Ensemble Studios, which is the company, I wasn't the CEO of that company, but I worked with that team. That one exited to Microsoft for around $100 million. Then we sold our company that made Words with Friends to Zynga for $180 million.
I remember Zynga.
Yeah, and then we IPO'd for $10 billion. So that was insane.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And this game we raised $46 million from Paradigm.
Okay.
About 2 years ago now.
Okay. So he was telling me. So I have a big question, and again, I'm asking for the rest of us. Right. So I'm also an investor as well.
Yeah.
So I have a background in tech. So I sold my first company in 2013.
Amazing.
But not what you guys have done.
You know what?
It's
all relative.
But every time I talk to somebody in Web3, they're saying like it's not about the money. It's about the product. It's about the experience. And people are building things. And people are not getting investors. It seems like a lot of companies are not doing what you guys have done. At least in my interviews, even just today. Like I've met people in pre-seed. I was explaining to one girl about founders notes. He didn't even know what a founders note was. I was just kind of like, so I'm like, okay, we're super early.
Yep.
So like, why would an investor, and he answered it very well, but why would the VC invest into a Web3 gaming company when there's not a lot of users yet?
Yeah.
In the Web3,
that's a great question.
But he said something that was so good. He said, you said that the best companies are not building the best Web3 games.
No, they're just building the best
games. I thought that was so good.
The crazy thing about it, if you like an investor perspective, like the Paradigm who invested in us.
Okay.
I think their hypothesis, which is the same as mine, is that this new technology is amazing. It's going to allow for games to do things that we couldn't do before.
Like what?
Typically, for a game developer, a games business, it's kind of easy to take money in. Like there's a million different platforms and tools for like having our users pay us, right? Like buying microtransactions or whatever it is. But it's actually kind of hard to let them take money out of the game and to create like that liquidity where a user could buy something in the game and then turn around later and be like, I don't want this anymore, or like I've created value here, I want to sell it to someone else. That's actually hard to do as a game developer. And Web3 and blockchain and crypto, that's like what that brings to the table, is that tool set that lets us do that. But the reason that I think it's so interesting from the perspective of like the venture capital firms that are investing in the space is everybody says that the real use case for Web3 is going to be games. That like the first game that is actually like even moderately popular, like I'm not talking about League of Legends, like just like a Rocket League or something, that will suddenly bring millions of people into this new technology, into this new space. And so it's this tremendous opportunity. And it's crazy that like still today, that even the first like really killer game doesn't exist yet. They're all being built like Wildcard and there's other companies. And so I think everybody sees that opportunity and they're like, oh my gosh, when that happens, like it's just going to be this game-changing moment. But we're not there yet. But it's not a question of if, it's just when now.
Wow, I love it, man. So let me ask you, let me change direction a little bit. So how many companies have you launched?
So I skipped one because I actually started my first company when I was 15, if you can believe that.
Let's talk about that first company.
Yeah, okay. All right. So this was before the internet, all right? So you remember we're all using dial-up modems. And we connected these things called bulletin board systems. This was back in like 94, 95. And so I ran this one in South Florida, in Miami. That was called the Playing Fields. And it became South Florida's biggest bulletin board system. So in my bedroom of my apartment, I had this huge hole in the wall with all these phone lines coming in. I had like 200 modems on my wall and like special air conditioning. It was crazy. Anyway, I ran that business as a kid. Like just graduating high school. Sold that business. And then that's when I got my first like real job in the career.
Who bought that business?
I don't even remember.
And what did they do with it?
They just kind of bought it for the hardware and stuff. Like those kind of businesses were doing this at the time because the internet was taking off. And I saw that and I was like, yeah, it's time to exit, you know? And so I'm like, who wants to? And there was, I think it was actually two groups that bought the two different parts of what I created. So yeah.
Dude, so you're an idea guy, developer. Oh man, this is exciting. This is probably one of my favorite interviews.
My favorite thing about this game we're working on now is that after that one company I just told you about, that's when I kind of moved out to Dallas and took my first real job in the games industry. So I was only 19 and joined that crew that we went on to build the Age of Empires games. And the core of this team, Wildcard, is the same people. Like, there are people on our team that I've been working with for over 20 years. That we've just kind of followed each other around and we've just been building these really cool games. We tend to like want to, like, we love going to these frontiers in game development where there's new technology. So that's why we were one of the first iPhone game companies. And then also, I didn't mention this, but we created a game with Oculus, you know, the headset, called Lucky's Tale. And that was one of the early VR games. So like, we just have this like pattern of like, you know, trying to see the places where gaming is going to evolve and then wanting to go make a game there.
I love it, man. So where do you see Web3? Like, let's talk about like the Apple, like the launch. Do you see any kind of like partnerships down the road with like an Apple device and Web3? Does that go together? Because
I think it all kind of merges together. So like, because, you know, we tend to think about these technologies as like singular things, like, oh, it's all about VR or it's all about Web3 or it's all about AI is the other thing people talk about now. I actually think that we're about at this place where all these technologies are just going to start to converge. So this next generation of games will have breakthrough pieces that are driven by AI. They'll have Web3 parts of them that allow users to transact more easily. And I know that there's a next generation of these wearable computers that are coming that'll just be like a really cool pair of glasses. Apple's new thing isn't there yet. It's the best ski mask version of it. But like my wife's not gonna wear that, you know, like it's not yet made for a mouse.
Are you gonna buy it though?
Of course I'm gonna buy it. Actually no. Wildcard's gonna buy it for me.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean I love to dabble on the cutting edge of technology, but it is made for people like me. It's not made for the mass market.
Yeah, that's what they said.
But this is like a step. Like you have to take this step to get to the thing that's smaller and smaller and smaller and lighter until eventually it's like as cool as an Apple Watch, you know, something that we all want to wear all the time.
I love it. Let me ask you, so as an entrepreneur, what would you tell an aspiring entrepreneur looking to get into gaming and to start this? Like what chops do they need to have as one, both an entrepreneur, but then also like a creator visionary to think, I mean, you've probably been a gamer, right? So you're able to bring like DreamWorks creation to this thing, right? So you're not just like business, you're like creator, idea guy, visionary. Like what goes into this to be a CEO and the founder of a company like this?
I mean, it's kind of what you're out here doing already. It's about meeting people. It's about networking. It's about, you know, just building out that group of folks who are excited about you, who share a vision with you. But also like, man, these days, I think it's the coolest thing. I get a chance to like talk to students and kids sometimes who ask this question, like, I love video games. I want to maybe make a career out of that. How can I do that? And I'm like, you know, when I was 18, 19, whatever, it was like, I don't know, man, like go get a job for a company like that and like try to work your way up slowly and whatever. These days, like the tools that we use to build this game, Unreal Engine, anyone can just go and download it and can like make stuff. Just go watch some YouTube tutorials and start to build. And like, it's just the communities that are out there on the internet, on Discord, that it's easy to find people that are excited about your vision and start to like form an organic community and build things together. Like you said, it starts with, you got to be a gamer. Like if you want to, you have to have spent a life just loving games and playing games. Right. But these days, I think going from that vision to building something is the shortest distance it's ever been. Wow. I mean, I've watched these kids, entrepreneurs in Roblox, go from like nothing to like 50 grand a month in revenue from some game they invented. It's just amazing. Like that never could have happened 20 years ago.
Wow. So I love what you said. Like, so this is like something you've been passionate about games.
Yes.
So this 100% makes sense for you. And like, I feel like the joy that you have in explaining this, and it's really cool for me as an entrepreneur, and I get a chance to work with other entrepreneurs. So I teach entrepreneurs how to position with investors and stuff like that. But like just to see like your happiness in this thing. And because
so, you know what, to hear you mention that, like what it reminds me of, when we started this company, we had just sold Words with Friends.
Okay.
For $180 million.
Okay.
And
how many partners you had?
It was just me and my brother.
Oh man.
So love it. It was a lot of money. It's a sudden wealth event for us, right? And after just like a little while, like 6 months, 9 months, I already knew, like, I got to go do this again. I got to build.
Wow.
But I turned to Katie, who's now my co-CEO at this company.
The wife.
Wild Kate.
The boss. The real boss.
Yeah, the real boss. Exactly. And I was like, okay, I know I want to do this, but just that's not good enough because I know what it takes. Like, you know what it takes. Like, building a company is brutal. It is the hardest thing that I have experienced in my life.
Right.
And so, like, it wasn't enough to just be like, I want to do it because I want to do it. Like, I really had to, like, soul search and be like, why am I doing, like, why really am I doing this? Why do I have this obsession with like going and building things and building companies? And for me, and the answer for everyone is different, but I think, you know, in terms of my advice to like other entrepreneurs, finding this reason is one of the most important things. For me, it was my favorite feeling in life is just if I can create something and then I can hand it to someone else and I sit back and I watch and they smile, they like have joy, they love it, and it makes them feel happy, then that is like my favorite feeling. So I was like, as soon as I understood that, I was like, okay, then now that makes sense. I'm not doing it for money, I'm not doing it, but it's because I just love that moment. So I want to go make that moment happen again. And once I understood that, then we're like, okay, now let's go start our next company.
Wow, I love it, man. It's so cool, dude. I think you exude the most joy out of anybody that I've met here so far. And I'm really excited that you came up, and I want to stay connected with you, man, because
I'd love to.
You know, we're looking to do some things in a nonprofit world where we want to bring more education, financial literacy, entrepreneurship to like communities who would never have access about this. Like some of the communities we're targeting won't even get a clue of this until like 5 years from today.
Yes.
And we don't want 5 years from today.
No.
We want them like this year.
Building now, because like I said, the tools are so much more accessible than they ever were.
Well,
and like I'm especially drawn to Web3 specifically because it is about distributing opportunity more fairly, more equitably. Like it gives there are these systems in place. If you want to go build a game and you want to go make money on a game before Web3, there's a lot of barriers, right? Like you got to know the right people. You got to work with a publisher. Like those barriers are going down over time. But Web3 is, I think, one of the most disruptive technologies for that in terms of letting people pursue opportunity kind of outside of the system a little bit. And like, I think that's legit. That's a power that I see in this technology.
I love it. Well, I'm excited about it, man. Listen, guys, here's, what's your last name, Paul?
Bettner.
Paul Bettner?
Bettner, yeah.
I'm here with Paul Bettner, CEO and co-founder, alongside his real boss, his wife. Can I get your contact?
Yes.
I want to stay connected with you guys. I tell people all the time, I'm not a Telegram guy. I'm old school.
Same.
I'm just this.
Let me just send you an email. I was gonna say.